Oh, hey, we're back. We're back. Hey, we're here today. It's bet on it. We're here on Thursday instead of Friday. Look, life happens. We got stuff to do, things to do, people to see, all that good stuff. We're gonna keep this short and tight today. I want to talk to you guys about one, we were so close to generational wealth. It made me really sad to not get there after almost being there. But fellas, how are we doing today? Joseph, how are we doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Just going to a Georgia game this weekend, and that's a big reason why I needed to record today. So excited to get to Athens and go Dogs.
I can't co-sign that last part. Jeremiah,
Man,
finger pyramid and all. How are we doing today?
Hey, happy about the weekend coming up. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun. Who could believe that we're here at NFL Week 5? A lot going on. If you're even just posting a relevant lineup with players who are getting snaps, you're doing well. And funny, that could impact part of what we're discussing and what goes into some of our bets. It can create some opportunities. So I'm really excited to bet on it.
So listen, before we get into what we're gonna do this week, right? Let's talk some sad boy news. Both you and I experienced tremendous pain at the hands or the butterfingers of AD Mitchell, and then the stickum hands, I guess. But Jeremiah, why don't you tell us about the play that you put in? Right process over results. So we'll talk process over results. That's what we'll call the opening to this, where we talk about how close we were.
Hey, and it's painful, but what has really gotten me through that pain and that frustration of the tough beat, the bad beat, right, is the fact that I had another ticket hit, and I sit there and think to myself, Drake London gets the 8th reception to finish a 4-leg SGP. $3 paid me $120. It was cool. It was great. But I have to sit there and think, hey, if Drake London doesn't make that catch, I don't win and cash that ticket. So I have to take not so often we look at the tickets that don't hit and marinate on why they didn't hit, instead of marinating sometimes aggressively towards how come that hit when it maybe shouldn't have, or that one leg that you had that hit where you think you're a genius, well, you actually did get lucky on. So that's my perspective on that to keep me right. I'm not going to let it mess with me. But let's talk about what was very tough in the moment. We had the running storyline. 5 would have paid out something like $400 plus 9,200. This is the bet that I laid down. It was a story I was telling. The Rams side, it was the Rams and the Colts. It was Puka Nacua anytime touchdown and 100 alt receiving yards. Easy, simple, nice. We love the matchup against the Colts. That printed, that did well. AD Mitchell, alt 60 yards. He more than cleared that. Got it nice, good. Tyler Warren, anytime touchdown. He rushed it in. Love it. Daniel Jones had 1 touchdown pass to end the game. I had over 1.5 and the AD Mitchell touchdown to connect. So then that AD Mitchell play where he fumbles the ball out, I lose out on those 2 legs, which would have hit on that play. And then I'm looking at $400+ win. But the immaturity that AD Mitchell showed, or whatever, it was a mistake, what have you, growing pains. I still believe in him. I'm the biggest believer in him. That vacuum of a catch, the way the ball just magnetized to his inside arm is not being talked about enough. Yeah. But because he made the error mentally and he had that holding call, it's hurting him now. I just think to myself, how can you not see what he did just prior to that fumble and not say, we got to get more of that? Hopefully that can be refined. I know there's a lot internally with what goes on day in, day out, but I want to see more AD Mitchell. So I still love him. I'm a huge backer of him, but just a tough bad beat. Chev, and was it the holding call? We can segue to you. The holding call by AD Mitchell, where it was the JT touchdown and you got the yards. Tell us about it.
So I did a 3-legger. So as my thing with being the host of this show and being a true fan of the thing, like I only known Joseph for about a month and a half, right? Maybe a little bit longer, but I'm a big one. I love gambling. I love parlays. And then he introduced me to this line of thinking with inverse correlation, and then being able to tell a story that's related to coverages and what a team's done before tells you what they're going to do. So I went into it and I was like, hey, man, I was really high on Puka Nacua. We talked about it on the redraft show. Like, I thought he was going to be one of the top players. Every single week he's going to be a wide receiver one for fantasy. But this particular matchup, I felt like we had an opportunity to get something special. So I went 10 receptions for Puka Nacua. I think he finished with like 13 on 15 targets.
Crazy. Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, hey, bring back in this game. I want to say Jonathan Taylor's going to get 120 yards rushing, because it seems like this is the ultimate, the best version of Jonathan Taylor we're going to get. We got the marriage where he's got a functional offense, he's got quarterback play, and he's one of the most rare talents in the NFL. If you know, you know. So I went 120 yards, right? And then I went to finish it off. I went 60 yards for AD Mitchell. Okay, just 60 for AD Mitchell. And that got me plus 6,000. And Puka cashed, and AD Mitchell cashed, and then AD Mitchell hurt me personally because he decided to hold on a 53-yard Jonathan Taylor run and cost me $5, paid out $305 on that. So
hurt.
Yeah, true pain. But again, this is the way that this goes. So we've got a couple plays that we want to get to you guys today. But before we do that, we're actually going to share a couple things from Joseph's Substack and Patreon. This stuff's behind the paywall. Okay. So we're giving it to you right now on the FF Dynasty for free. So he's going to explain how to read this, what it means, and who some of his favorite plays are based on what we're looking at with the predicted pressure matchup.
Yeah, and just to make sure that we're showing the right table as I can't see it right this moment, but the one with the quarterback names on it is the predicted pressure table.
Yeah, hold on.
And
I'm gonna get that up. Give me just one
second. So the one with the quarterback names on it, so that shows what quarterback is facing what kind of defense and what kind of pressure we can predict them to have. So there's a lot that goes into pressure, like generation, right? It's not just as simple as like this team gets pressure, so they're always going to get pressure. Well, no, like what about the offensive line? What about the quarterback's decision making? Does the quarterback invite pressure? Some quarterbacks tend to invite pressure more than other quarterbacks. So like what kind of time to throws are we looking at versus time to pressures? Is the quarterback trying to throw it deep a lot, right? Like all of these things impact a quarterback's ability to get pressured. And then on top of that, a quarterback's, pressure that they receive influences their ability to construct a good game or to orchestrate a good game. And so the predictive pressure table is really what I would consider like an all-encompassing table of like what kind of disruption may the quarterback face in a given game, right? So can we predict that they have a high amount of quick pressure that they're about to receive? What kind of coverages are they facing? So I include perfectly covered play rate, which is a PFF statistic that is very hard to get your hands on, but it is when every single defender gets a positive coverage grade or neutral coverage grade. So they don't make a mistake is what that's considered. So you only get a negative coverage grade when you make a mistake in PFF's grading system. So if every single player is neutral or better, that is considered a perfectly covered play. So I include predicted pressure and then perfectly covered play rate. So we can see what defenses are covering well, and then are they getting pressure? And then on top of that, we can look at, well, how does the quarterback respond to pressure? So what is their like expected points added, their EPA, when they're kept clean and when they're under pressure? And the bigger that difference, the bigger we can be interested in some kind of alt bet. Because typically the lines that are being put out there on a median basis, right? They're being put out there as a median or an average basis, which assumes a blend of pressure and clean pocket, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can predict a clean pocket and we know this quarterback is substantially better in clean situations than they are in pressured situations, well, now we know, oh, this is kind of a new an angle that we can attack, right? This is something that people, the public, books, whatever, these are things that they're not focused on, right? They're not focused on those kind of clean pressure matchups. They're just kind of focused on defense bad, defense good, right? Not necessarily can this defense generate pressure, and how does that quarterback respond to that pressure? And then on top of that, the extra layer to this is we can see what kind of is this a defense that busts a lot? Is this a defense that allows a defender on the, to have a negative coverage grade, right? Defense is like a weak link system. If you have one cornerback that is constantly screwing up, you're probably still going to give up a lot of yards, even if all other 10 players are good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you have one cornerback that is bad, it is a weak link system. Judah likes to say that. Judah Fort Gang. It's a weak link system. And so that's why perfectly covered play rate is something that we want to focus on, as well as quick pressure. Those are two things that you really want to kind of marry and look at how does a quarterback respond to those things. And so this week, right, we're looking at Jared Goff shows up as the quarterback to receive the least amount of pressure, right? So he's going against the Bengals, which really only have like one good defensive lineman.
Right.
The Lions line is pretty solid. They have not been that bad. And then on top of that, Jared Goff is really good when not pressured, right? He is like the third or fourth best quarterback in the NFL when he's not receiving pressure. And then everyone kind of knows the Bengals defense is not exactly great. So this is kind of lining up to be like, oh, there's a lot of reasons to really like the Lions here. Like, I know that they're 10-point favorites, but it might be worse than that. Like, it might be a better situation than even a 10-point favorite could receive, right? This is a really bad defense that is not going to get, like, in theory, right? Assuming, and the model has a pretty good R squared. Like, I didn't get into the stats of it all, but assuming that the model's, remotely correct, they're not going to be getting a lot of quick pressure. Jared Goff is excellent when not pressured. This is a situation where you could see Jared Goff go for like 330, Jameson Williams go for 90, and you could probably even go under attempts on Jared Goff, right? Like you could push his numbers really high, go under attempts, say that there's going to be a bomb to JMO at some point, and you're looking at a game that really could stack up for like a 40-1, a 50-1, a 60-1, right? Depending on how you approach the bet and you construct it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's like how to use that table.
Reverse correlation with the under on the attempts. Does that juice it up?
It juices it up a lot. And Goff's one of those quarterbacks that, given a clean situation, he's hyper efficient, right? He is a hyper efficient quarterback when he's clean. So that's when you want to bet on those situations. The three quarterbacks I think that make a lot of sense just on a weekly basis to bet like high yardage under attempts are like Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love. And I'm sure there's others, but like those are the three that stick out to me in a big way of like these quarterbacks that can get a lot of yardage by being efficient through either their scheme or through their depth of target. And then given a clean situation, they're going to be completing these passes and it's going to really rack up yards. And that's how you get, and like you can do under attempts over completions and you can really juice these odds. And the key is like, well, they're not even going to hit the yardage if they don't have this efficient game, but doing that efficient game, like when you do the under attempts and you do the over completions, that makes the odds go crazy. But the thing is the yards aren't going to hit unless they're efficient. So these things are directly related. They directly relate to each other, but you're getting better odds for that. Does that make sense? Like, I hope that makes sense.
And also is part of the reason for those quarterbacks that you had mentioned, because you have something like the Gibbs, Montgomery run out for high rush opportunities that are paired, Josh Jacobs with Jordan Love to have a high share of running attempts. And then the same thing with Jonathan Taylor, where there might be a finite amount. Are you kind of keying in on it could be a more finite amount of pass attempts from those three quarterbacks?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a big part of it, right? Yeah, like you know that Jonathan Taylor is going to get his workload, right? And then when Daniel Jones is passing it, we know that it's going to be play action a lot of the time, right? They run a really high play action rate. They're going to be efficient, like they're going to be really good opportunities, right? If you think about like what is a good opportunity to pass it in the NFL, a play action pass on first down is about as good as it gets. That's like the defense is not ready. You have linebackers coming up, and you can throw it over the top for 15, 20 yards. Well, that's how you rack up a lot of yards on few attempts, right? Is those situations. And the Colts are so far this year, they've been the best team in the NFL at doing things like that. We know that the Packers love to do play action, like 60-yard bombs with Jordan Love. And that's how, when those connect, that's how you hit these tail events. And so that's just like a little bit of how I've been thinking about it, how I approach using this table is like, do we have quarterbacks that aren't going to be under a lot of duress? Are they efficient quarterbacks when they're not under duress? Because some quarterbacks aren't, by the way. Like if we go back and look at the table, I don't know if Chev has it ready. It's fine if you don't. But
no, I got it.
Cam Ward, for instance, has not been efficient when he is clean, right? Like even given a clean situation, Cam Ward has a negative EPA, which is not great. But he's a rookie quarterback. He's learning. He's still developing. And at some point, maybe it'll click for him. I hope it does. But right now, he's predicted to have the third most pressure this week from the Cardinals, and he's not. He has the second worst EPA. I think third worst EPA, third or fourth worst EPA in the NFL when he's pressured, and he's expected to feel a lot of pressure this week. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fail. Last week, Michael Penix was predicted to get a lot of pressure, and he did get a lot of pressure, but he still threw for a lot of yards. Like you can still succeed and throw for a lot of yards. You just might be less efficient at it.
Yeah.
So that's the key word there is the efficiency.
So would maybe the out of play structure bullish case on Cam Ward, if you want to go after him, and we could talk about a tail play later about Cam Ward, alternate passing yards, 250 say, but that may be more from maybe things are out of structure. He's throwing on the run versus because you have Cam Ward so much lower here. 26 ranked versus Jared Goff, number 1. Is part of that because you see him at 26 and Cam Ward, it's going to be less efficient. So maybe those reverse line correlation plays aren't going to be there for the attempts versus.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to say for Cam Ward, I don't think I would want to do like completions and attempts. Like I wouldn't want to say like under attempts for Cam Ward, but I might add attempts, like just like 34 attempts, or I don't know what his line is. Like, don't take that number seriously if you're taking it. But like whatever his line is, maybe I'd push that up a little bit on attempts, because the only way he's going to get there, because he's so inefficient when given pressure, the only way he's going to get there is if he gets a lot of attempts. Right? Does that make sense? So like those directly relate to each other, because he's inefficient when pressured, and we expect him to get a lot of pressure because he's so inefficient. The only way he's going to get there is by having more attempts.
Now, do you say with the Jared Goff scenario where there's the inverse correlation, that's going to juice the odds better, but more of the correlation play on Cam Ward and the increased attempts, it may not juice the odds as much, but that's the story that you want to tell versus
exactly
Jared Goff. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So Jared Goff is more of an inverse correlation play, whereas Cam Ward's is a story play. Like because it's just a direction in the story. Like we're telling a story of Cam Ward is going to be feeling pressure. He's less efficient when he's feeling pressure. Therefore, for him to get to 250, he's going to need to pass the ball more than people expect, right? Yeah. Because he's inefficient.
Now, the thing is, they may not park the bus as well with the run game. They may go throw mode more. Whereas you said the Colts, the Packers, and the Lions can flee to their running game after they've been efficient.
Exactly. And that's where like I would start looking at, and I share these graphs in my Discord and I share them in the Substack, but I start looking at like, okay, so when you're winning, what is your pass rate over expectation, right? What is your PROE? Because that, like when you're winning and when you're losing, I really care about those things, because if you're a team, so the Colts are a really good example of a team that when they're winning, they still keep passing it, right? Because, and I think Shane Steichen is one of my favorite coaches in the NFL, because he's very analytical, but he understands that when you are like an NFL team can come get you. Any NFL team in the country can come get you no matter who you are. And he understands that I need to keep the gas down, right? We're going to keep it going. And that's why like I still feel hopeful in certain bets, like even like with Daniel Jones or with the Colts, even if say maybe they're winning by 14 and we're at 200 and we need 260. The Colts are a team that might play action bomb it to Alec Pierce at any moment, right? They really could do that at any moment during the game, outside of like the last like 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. They're willing to do things like that, and that's why like their alts are super interesting to me this week. I'm sure we'll get into it at some point, but really that's like the idea is that if we can predict pressure, we can predict efficiencies and inefficiencies in the market.
That's kind of, I mean, that's been the crux of the show. Like, hey, we're gonna find you some events, some opportunities within this system to take advantage of where that, Vegas might not always, like, you, again, no matter how many calculators and computers you have, like, you can't account for everything. And so we're taking where they can't focus, like laser focus, hey, and put a flashlight on like this particular thing. We can take advantage of that, right? So with that being said, I wanted Jeremiah to take a second to talk about, because you put the we asked parlay in.
Yes.
And I wanted you to speak on that a little bit, because again, we have the predicted pressure table, right? And this is the nastiest of the nasty, and this would
Gross.
this is the tail of the tail. If we're talking going with predicted pressure against predicted pressure, and what just the Titans in general have shown from a capability standpoint. So Jeremiah, the floor is yours, brother.
So we had the weekly predictions for week 5 that Joseph had sent out, and that's a little bit more related to DraftKings and maybe some of the fantasy plays, not necessarily the sports books. Is that correct, Joseph?
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to say that word, but yeah, absolutely.
Or,
it's okay.
Or markets, places.
Yeah.
Places with numbers. So
cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. So I don't know what he's gonna say. I mean, who knows?
That is riveting stuff right there. But while Jeremiah reboots, let's get into one of your favorite plays this week. We talked a ton before the show went live. Raiders Colts. So
yeah, I love that game.
Yeah, I had a note in before I spoke to you before the show about the Colts playing cover 3 at about a 30% clip, and then you came over with the hammer. You were like, look, the Raiders play cover 3 7% more than anybody else. And so
they play cover 3 a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
They play cover 3 a ton. By PFF numbers, which they look at every single play, even run plays, they look at like what coverage were you going to play based off of like your shell and how the defenders move. They predict like what you were going to play on that. And so even on run plays, they run it at 51% of the time. The next closest team is 44%, right? Which, if you're curious, the next closest team is the Steelers. But they run cover 3 a lot, and they run zone coverage a ton. And we can exploit that, right? So on top of them running a lot of zone coverage, they're very bad against play action, which the Colts love to run. So there's a lot that really sets up for this Colts offense. Tyler Warren and Alec Pierce are both the top threats in cover 3. We see Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman are the top threats against zone coverage. And so there's really like a lot of angles we can attack this through the Colts. And I think that the way that I'll be attacking it is some all overs on Daniel Jones, some slide all overs. I think he has a really good place. I'm going to do some all over completions and under attempts on Daniel Jones. We're going to predict him to have a really efficient game. And if he, like, for those to hit, he's basically going to have to hit an Alec Pierce deep bomb. Like, for those to hit, that will almost certainly have to happen. So we're going to add an Alec Pierce deep bomb in there. And Alec Pierce is one of the top threats. So that's targets per route run against cover 3 on the team. So we know that, and for what it's worth, last week, the Rams are a very high cover 3 team. They're very high middle of the field covered, middle of the field closed team. Adonai Mitchell had a good game. Adonai Mitchell had a good game. This is a situation that I feel similarly about. I think that Alec Pierce can win some one-on-ones. I think he was ready to break out before he got injured last week. I think, or 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I think that breakout's going to continue. So in general, I'm very high on Daniel Jones alts, Daniel Jones alt completions, and under attempts is where I'm going to be aiming it so that those odds go crazy.
Yes.
And then we can add, on top of that for like other bets. And I'm not saying this is all one bet, although I might do a bet where all this is happening. Alec Pierce getting a lot of yards and Tyler Warren getting a lot of yards. I think that those are the two angles. That's the big angle that I want to approach this game with.
Yeah, I absolutely love that play. And just off the Alec Pierce has been one of the show heroes. Like that's at this point, like he might deserve a fourth screen to be because we talk about him almost every single time that he's facing like a single high team or a team middle of the field close. You're gonna hear those terms. So if we say middle of the field close, that means that they play a ton of like cover 3 or
and
single high safety.
Yeah.
So
exactly, and then cover and to go off that point, middle of the field open means 2 high safeties. Yes. So you have you're playing cover 2, cover 4 a lot of the time, and those are defenses that in general funnel targets to tight ends and running backs, where cover 3 and cover 1 filter targets to wide receivers. So that's just kind of how that works. I mean, it's not always, right? Of course, if someone can catch the ball, it doesn't matter, what coverage you're running, anyone can catch the ball. But that's the basic idea is what kind of targets is this defense going to funnel? And then how can we exploit that? And I think this is a really good example of a game that we can exploit some inefficiencies and in how efficient Daniel Jones can be. And also, Jeremiah's back. How you doing?
Man, I'm so sorry it blanked. Did you guys catch any of what I was saying, or
not a bit of it? We went on a rant about the Colts,
and I was like, "Oh, he's about to cook." And then
so what I have, are you good if I roll it?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So it's a we ask parlay. It's Cam Ward alt 250 passing yards, because I'm going back to the principle of what Joseph has been saying about any quarterback is good, they can get 250. And the beauty is we're getting the most depressed price and plus odds in our favor. And alternatively, in fantasy football, Chev and I, on our kickers and defensive show, we are all about the Cardinals defense. So we are doing lower percent outcomes with high range payouts. So we're on the other side here, talking about the 250 for Cam Ward. I saw on your prediction model something about Chico Conco having a good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals because tight ends. So I'm doing alt 60 yards for Chig. And then Elk A. Manor with what's going on with Calvin Ridley. And if we're going to get any of that 250 goodness, I'm saying, hey, it's Elk A. Manor's going to get me 80 alt receiving yards. And then on the other side, Joseph, I'm thinking of somewhere maybe making 2 tickets where that fourth piece is Marvin Harrison Jr., alt 70, alt 80, or McBride, alt 70, alt 80. Would you go in the direction of alt receptions for McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. on their respective tickets? And are these numbers that I'm cooking well? Do you like this? What would you tweak? What would you think differently?
Yeah, so I think that this is a game that I did write up in my Substack, so people will be able to see that when it comes out. I did write this game up. I think that it is a game where my opinions on the game are more that I think it's more likely than not that Arizona absolutely decimates the Titans. Sorry, Chev, but now. So Timo Risk, he's Risky. I don't know how to say his name. He is a data scientist for PFF, and he comes out with a statistical review each week. Last week, the Saints and the Bills were 3 tiers apart, right? Using pure analytics, pure EPA adjusted strengths on offense and defense. All that good stuff. They were 3 tiers apart. And it was a 14.5 point spread at closing, right? This week, the Cardinals and the Titans are 6 tiers apart. They're 6 tiers apart. And I forget the exact spread last time I looked, but I think it's like it's not 14 points, right? It's not even close to that. I think that this is a game where the Cardinals are probably going to decimate the Titans. But because of that, the Titans are probably going to pass it a lot. And so I do think that Cam Ward has the ability to get 250. Absolutely. So I do not, that is a leg that I am interested in, right? That is a leg I'm absolutely interested in. And as far as like attacking the Cardinals defense, they run a good amount of zone coverage. They run a lot of cover 4. They actually run the most cover 4 in the NFL. And going against cover 4, that's a too high defense, right? We talked about it while you were off, but that's too high defense that typically funnels targets to tight ends and to running backs, right? That's kind of like where the targets get funneled. It doesn't mean wide receivers can't catch the ball. It's just where they get that's where the defense is trying to get the ball, I guess, from more of like a macro or conceptual standpoint. It's where they're trying to get the ball to go to. So I don't hate Chig at all. I'm a big fan of Chig Okonkwo. He's like one of my favorite players. I should say he's one of my favorite players from last year. I won a lot of money from him last year, so I'm a big fan of him for that reason. And he's just got an awesome name. Just a really cool Chigoziem Okonkwo. I mean, that's just an awesome name.
Absolutely.
So really, like that kind of core of Cam Ward to Chig, I like that a lot. I think that like that's a very possible thing. And then Alec Ayamaner, it's more of like there's not really a great reason to do it outside of he has the best P-Whopper on the team now, I think, last time I checked. And he's like becoming their wide receiver 1. This is a too high defense that isn't, if he's gonna catch it, it's gonna kind of be an outlier performance. So that's something where I'm like, you might be being too aggressive with putting that in there, right? Because there's not exactly a data-driven reason to do it outside of, well, he's the wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, which is an okay reason if you're comfortable with that, right? If that's a reason you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Assume the risk.
On the other side, I'm very interested. Like the Cardinals are a team that I think are going to end up passing the ball a lot this week. Like having down 2 running backs, they're already 3rd in the NFL. Like Cardinals are number 3 in the NFL in adjusted pass rate, like adjusted neutral situation pass rate. They have a very high pass rate over expectation. They just throw the ball short. They have like one of the lowest average depth of targets in the NFL. So I think the Titans run a lot of zone as well. They run a lot of funnels to tight ends. So Trey McBride could absolutely go off. Their defense doesn't exactly bode well for like Marvin Harrison to go off. Doesn't mean he can't. Again, that's really important to say all the time. Doesn't mean he can't do that. It's just this is a defense that typically funnels targets to tight ends. They have an awesome tight end. They like to throw the ball short. There's a lot of reasons to like some kind of Trey McBride alt receptions on the other side or even alt yardage. And so I think that I would structure the bet somewhere around like Cam Ward 250. I don't mind Chig Okonkwo in the bet at 60. And I would probably bring it. I don't know if I would include Ellick at that point. Okay. Although to get there, he's probably going to have to get off. And that's where it's like, maybe you want to include him, maybe you don't, but it's like someone else might, and then you lose the bet and you're like, I wish I wouldn't have put him in there. I'd probably bring it back because you have good data-driven reasons to do it with like Trey McBride and some kind of capacity, or maybe even DeMarcado, because in this zone defense, Kyler loves to check it down. I don't know what it is. He just loves to check it down. I wish he would go further with the ball, but he just likes to check it down. And because of that, they funnel targets to the tight end and to the running back. So I would be doing alts there, not necessarily Marvin Harrison. Doesn't mean he can't go off. It just means there's not a great data-driven reason why.
No, I mean, that's absolutely an astute point. And that's why we wanted to bring it to you. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this one. We've got to cut this one short. Jeremiah and I have to jump over to another one. But before we do, we wanted to let you know that we are sponsored by ProfitX. ProfitX is the America's number one sports prediction market. Play against peers, not the house. And it's the number one peer-to-peer sports prediction market. You eliminate the house and increase your odds. You're able to make plays like taking the 49ers as a 5.5 point underdog, or Christian McCaffrey's receptions. Jeremiah, is there something that you love on ProfitX this week?
Hey, I love over 87.5 rushing yards for Jonathan Taylor against the Raiders. We love this game. We like it for tail events, and I like it for this stat here. The last game against the Rams, it was 76 yards rushing. Would have been over 100. You take that holding call that happened. Week 3, 102 rushing yards, 165 in week 2. And then opening up against the Dolphins, 71 rushing yards. And we saw that was a Daniel Jones special where he was getting the tush pushes. There was a lot of attention there. It diverted a little bit, but Jonathan Taylor is making a great case to endure to be the RB1 in fantasy football. So we can just follow this over to Profit X and hit the over on 87.5 rushing yards. Last week we hit over on Deebo Samuel's 7.5 rushing yards line, and we're going to hit it again with Jonathan Taylor over 87.5 rushing yards.
So there you have it, man. Make sure you go sign up for Profit X today using promo code FFD. Earn up to $200 back on your first 30 days of playing. The more you play, the more they pay. So sign up for Profit X. Do it. Now, this has been another episode of Bet On It, where we give you the best odds and using math, and we're marrying up the film and the math, and we're bringing you the best odds possible. So, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. If you're watching, Forrest, shout out to you for actually like having this on and paying attention during the game. We're gonna try not to do it during the game again, bro. This is just the way life happens sometimes. So, all right, if you're here, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon. And I'm gonna post all of our plays that we have for this week. We'll post them. Jeremiah and I will post them on Twitter. So, all right, until next time. See you guys.